Alright, today we're going to solve radical equations. We've been working with them for the past week now. So look at the rules for solving radical equations. First, we're going to get the radical term alone. 2, we're going to raise both sides to the root power. We're going to solve and then check our answers because we cannot have a radical that equals a negative number. So let's look at number 1. To get rid of the square root, we're going to square both sides because they cancel each other out. So you're going to square both sides. So a square root to a squared cancels. So we have 3x minus 2 equals 5 squared, which is 25. Now we're going to solve it as a regular equation. Add 2. So we have 3x equals 27. Divide by 3. So x equals 9. Now check it. So we have our square root. 3 times 9 minus 2 should equal 5. 3 times 9 is 27. 27 minus 2 is 25. The square root of 25 does equal 5, so it checks. Number 2. Before you can do that, just like with absolute values, you have to make sure the radical's alone. So what are we going to do first? Subtract x from both sides. So we're left with negative 5 minus x equals 3 minus x. Remember, they're not like terms, so they cannot be combined. How do we get rid of that negative? Right, it's really a negative 1. So divide by negative 1 on both sides. So we have the square root of 5 minus x equals x minus 3. Or you could do negative 3 plus x. I just rewrote it. Now the radical's alone. So how do we get the radical by itself? Or how do we get rid of the radical? Right, we're going to square it. So we're squaring both sides. So now we're left with 5 minus x equals x minus 3 squared. Well, what does that mean? That means x minus 3 times x minus 3. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3x. Then do the same. Negative 3x plus 9. So it's going to equal what? X squared minus 6x plus 9. Now we have an x squared. So how do we solve something with an x squared? Right, get everything over to one side to set it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 5, add x. We're going to add x, subtract 5. So now we have x squared. We have a 0 over there. Negative 6 plus 1 is a negative 5. 9 minus 5 is a positive 4. Now factor, because we have a quadratic. Two numbers that multiply to give me a positive 4, but add up to a negative 5. So negative 4 and negative 1. Now how do we solve for x? Set them both equal to 0. So x minus 4 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. So x equals 4 and x equals 1. But what do we still have left to do? Correct. We need to check it. So you're going to use the original. So I'm just going to bring it down so that we can check it. So we're going to check. Let's check the 4 first. 4 minus square root of 5 minus 4 equals 3. So we have 4 minus, what's 5 minus 4? 1. What's the square root of 1? 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 equals 3. It checks. Now let's do x equals 1. So we're going to plug a 1 in wherever there's an x. So 5 minus 1 should equal 3. So we have 1 minus, what is 5 minus 1? 4. Square root of 4 is 2, and that should equal 3. Well, what is 1 minus 2? -1. Does -1 equal 3? No. So does 1 work? No. So your answer is x equals 4. So you got to make sure you check them. Let's look at another one. Let's look at number 3. What do we have to get alone? The radical. So what are we going to get rid of first? Right, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. So we're left with the square root of y plus 8 equals 4. How do we get the radical gone? Right, square both sides. So y plus 8 equals 16. Solve for y. Y equals 8. Now check it. Square root. Instead of a y, we're going to plug in an 8. And we have plus 1 should equal 5. All right, let's finish checking. So 8 plus 8 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5, so it checks. Now let's look at a cube root. So instead of squaring both sides, how are we going to get rid of a cube root? Right, we're going to cube it. So we're left with 8 minus 4a equals 4 cubed, which is what? 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. Now solve for a like you normally would. Subtract 8. We're left with a negative 4a equals 64 minus 8 is what? 56. Divide by a negative 4. And a equals what? If you don't know, do it on your calculator. Should be a negative 14. Now let's check it. So our check. Cube root. We have 8 minus 4 and then a negative 14 should equal 4. So what is 14 times 4? Right, 56. So now we have 8 plus 56 should equal 4. What is 8 plus 56? 64. Remember, we are cube rooting. So what's the cube root of 64? 4. So it works. So that is our answer. Good. All right, because of time, we're going to skip number 5. I think 4 questions is enough. You're going to have 2 questions that I want you to try. You're going to pause the video, and then you're going to turn it back on to check your answers. So go ahead, pause the video.